They were supposed to return from a peaceful hike with their daughters, but instead, police found blood in the woods, silence in the trees, and 2 children orphaned in an instant. It started like any other family getaway, a simple hike through Arkansas' scenic state park trails, the kind of trip families take to reconnect with nature, to breathe, to heal, to bond. But what unfolded deep within those quiet woods would haunt not just a town, but the entire nation, when the bodies of a loving couple were found brutally murdered just feet from their 2 terrified daughters. America was left asking one chilling question: who kills parents in front of their own children, and why? This wasn't a robbery gone wrong. Nothing of value was taken. There were no signs of a bear, snake, or mountain lion. The bodies didn't show signs of a fall or an accident. This was calculated, cold human dot in a forest known for its serenity. A crime had been committed that shattered the very meaning of the word safe. What made this case even more heartbreaking was the presence of 2 little girls, traumatized, silent, and the only witnesses to a horror no child should ever endure. And while the public rallied behind the orphans, the real mystery had only just begun. Police were tight-lipped, locals were panicked, social media swirled with rumors of serial killers, cults, and hidden enemies. But the truth, when it came out, would be even more unsettling. This wasn't just a murder. One detective would later say, it was a message. Welcome to the Crime Chapter 1. Subscribe now, like this video, and drop your thoughts in the comments. Who would commit such a crime? And what were they trying to hide? Let's find out. Case background: they were the kind of family you'd see on a greeting card, smiling in front of a campfire, holding hands on a hiking trail, 2 young daughters giggling behind them, dirt on their knees and wonder in their eyes. Stephen and Crystal Gosnell weren't celebrities. They weren't rich, controversial, or problematic. They were ordinary people, and maybe that's what makes what happened to them so terrifying. Because if it could happen to them, it could happen to anyone. A weekend escape turns into a nightmare. Stephen and Crystal lived in Van Buren, Arkansas, a peaceful town not far from Devil's Den State Park, a place known for its natural beauty, jagged rock formations, waterfalls, and winding trails. The couple, both in their early 40s, had been married for over a decade. Crystal was a stay-at-home mom devoted to raising their 2 daughters, ages 8 and 10. Stephen worked in construction and was known for being soft-spoken, dependable, and fiercely protective of his family. Friends described them as gentle souls with old-school values. So when they planned a weekend hike to Devil's Den with their girls in June 2024, no one thought twice. It was routine, familiar, safe. But that weekend would become anything but. Within 24 hours, that peaceful hiking trip would turn into a crime scene so brutal, even seasoned detectives were shaken. What made the Gosnells a target? The strange thing is, there was nothing about the Gosnells to suggest they were in danger. They had no known enemies, no financial troubles, no shady associations. They weren't involved in drugs, gambling, or crime. They were churchgoers, loved by their community. So why were they murdered? And more disturbingly, why were they murdered in front of their children? Authorities would later reveal that the children, too traumatized to speak, were likely present during the murders. Their silence, their frozen expressions when found, told investigators everything they needed to know. The morning they vanished, it was a Saturday. The Gosnells left home early, packed light, snacks, water bottles, a camera, a small tent, and told a neighbor they'd be back by sunset. They never returned. When Sunday morning arrived and their car was still parked near the Yellow Rock Trail, the alarm bells rang. Search crews were dispatched, dogs were brought in, drones scanned the dense canopy, and then they found 2 small girls huddled under a tree, clinging to each other like their lives depended on it. Nearby, half buried in leaves and brush, were the bodies of Stephen and Crystal. Murdered, brutally, shot, execution-style. No valuables were missing. There were no defensive wounds. No evidence of a struggle, just blood and silence. It was like they were hunted. One park ranger said in disbelief. The theories begin almost instantly. Social media was ablaze. Who would do this? Why would a peaceful family be targeted like this, in broad daylight, in a public park? Rumors spread like wildfire. A random forest drifter, a serial killer stalking hikers, a domestic dispute turned deadly, a robbery gone wrong. But none of it added up. The girls weren't harmed. The parents weren't robbed. No. One in the area reported gunshots, though that might be because the area is remote and cell service is limited. One local commented online, "You don't just stumble across a family in Devil's Den and kill them like that. This feels personal." Local law enforcement, overwhelmed. The initial investigation was led by the Crawford County Sheriff's Office, but it quickly overwhelmed their resources. The case was escalated to the Arkansas State Police and later brought in FBI support. Due to the severity and suspected premeditation, there were no fingerprints, no shell casings, no eyewitnesses. It was as if the killer had known exactly what they were doing and had done it before. "The scene was almost too clean," said one anonymous source inside the police department. "This wasn't just a murder. This was a professionally executed hit." The children, silent witnesses, the daughters, who were found alive but deeply traumatized, were immediately taken into protective custody. They didn't speak for days. Psychologists were brought in to gently help them process what they'd seen, though even seasoned therapists warned that what they'd likely experienced could cause lifelong PTSD. One therapist noted, "They didn't cry, they didn't scream, they just stared, like they were stuck in that moment, unable to leave it. And in a way, they still are." The park, a crime scene like no other. Devil's Den State Park was shut down for 72 hours. Every trail was swept, every foot of brush examined. Nothing, no weapons, no tire tracks, no footprints. The only clue, a plastic water bottle had crushed with a faint fingerprint on it. It didn't match anyone in the Gosnell family. Social media clues, a family's final posts. Investigators turned to Crystal's social media. On her Facebook, a post just hours before the murder showed her smiling beside a wooded trail, with the caption, "Grateful for this day, grateful for family." Below that, a simple heart, emoji. It was the last thing she ever posted. Stephen had no social media, but Crystal's phone, found near her body, showed a few photos taken that afternoon. One of the girls playing near a rock formation, one of Stephen and Crystal kissing under a tree. The timestamp on the final photo, 4:47 p.m. They were believed to have been murdered around 5 p.m., just 13 minutes after that last image of happiness was captured. "Imagine smiling one moment and facing death the next," said one investigator. "It's horrifying to think how fast everything changed." A hidden past. As investigators dug deeper, they began asking questions no one had considered. Was Stephen really just a small-town contractor? Was Crystal hiding something from her past? An unsealed court record revealed that Crystal had once filed for a restraining order against a former boyfriend over 15 years ago, before she met Stephen. Could this man have returned? Was it revenge? Nothing in the current investigation confirmed this, but the question stayed. Was this a ghost from the past, coming back for blood? Community in shock. The town of Van Buren held a vigil just 2 days after the discovery. Candles were lit. Photos of the Gosnells were displayed. Prayers were said for the daughters. People hugged, cried, demanded answers. "This doesn't happen here," one local said. "We lost a part of our innocence that day." Summary of what we know so far. Stephen and Crystal Gosnell went hiking with their 2 daughters in Devil's Den State Park on a Saturday. They were expected to return home that evening, but never did. Search teams found the daughters, alive but traumatized, and both parents shot dead. No obvious motive, theft, or struggle was found. The crime scene was shockingly clean, and only one partial print was found on a water bottle. Social media showed they were alive and happy just 13 minutes before the likely time of death. "There's no logical reason," said one investigator, which is exactly what makes this case so terrifying. Timeline of events. June 14, 2024, a day meant for peace. It was a warm Saturday morning. Summer had just begun in Arkansas, the trees full, the air clear, and families filling the parks to escape the noise of everyday life. For Stephen and Crystal Gosnell, it was supposed to be a break, a memory-making day with their 2 daughters, just nature, fresh air, and love. They packed up their SUV, left their modest home in Van Buren, and headed off toward Devil's Den State Park. Just 40 miles south, their daughters, 8 and 10 years old, were reportedly excited about seeing butterflies and climbing the big rocks. Crystal had promised them. They were last seen by a neighbor around 9:15 a.m., waving goodbye with smiles on their faces. They looked so happy, the neighbor would later say, holding back tears. "You never expect that to be the last time." 10:30 a.m. Arrival at Devil's Den, State Park CCTV footage from the entrance booth at Devil's Den confirms the Gosnell family's arrival just after 10:30 a.m. They signed in, waved to the ranger, and parked near the Yellow Rock Trail, one of the most scenic but lightly trafficked routes. Cell tower data from Crystal's phone shows minor activity, a couple of texts to her sister around 11 a.m. Nothing alarming. By noon, they were deep into the trail. 12:30 p.m. Trail photos and smiles. Crystal's phone captures multiple pictures from the trail. The kids balancing on logs, a waterfall behind Stephen, and a panoramic selfie of the family. They looked joyful, alive, peaceful. But every photo feels eerie in hindsight, because just hours later, they'd be gone. "You can see the love in their eyes," said one family friend, "and that makes it so much worse." 2 p.m. Digital silence begins after 2 p.m. The family's phones go dark. No outgoing texts, no social media activity, no GPS updates. Some of that could be explained by spotty service, but investigators found it suspicious. It was like the family had vanished into the trees. Later, one investigator would say, "That blackout period, that's when we believed they were being watched." 5 p.m. The estimated time of death according to coroner reports and data from a recovered smart device. Stephen and Crystal were likely killed sometime between 4:50 and 5:10 p.m. The killer shot both parents at close range. The exact number of gunshots has not been released, possibly due to the ongoing investigation, but early reports suggest at least 3 rounds were fired. Oddly, no one heard anything. Not hikers, not rangers, not campers. Which raises a terrifying possibility. Was the weapon suppressed? Or were they lured somewhere deeper off the trail, away from where anyone could hear? 5:30 p.m. The daughters are found alone. A jogger, 19-year-old Lacey Harmon, was the first to spot the 2 young girls. They were sitting at the base of a tree, silent, unmoving, staring into nothing. When Lacey approached, they didn't speak. One of them was holding a stuffed rabbit. The other was gripping her sister's hand so tightly that her nails had cut into her palm. They were covered in dirt, their shoes missing. And most hauntingly, they never once asked for their parents. It was like they already knew, Lacey later said, like they had seen it all and their souls had gone numb. 6 p.m. Police and rangers begin search. Lacey called park rangers, who immediately locked down the trail and called state police. The search began swiftly. Drones scanned the area. Dogs were brought in, and not even an hour later, less than 500 yards from where the girls were found, the bodies of Stephen and Crystal were discovered. Stephen had been shot in the chest and head, Crystal in the back. There were no signs of a struggle, no indications of a chase. They were executed. It wasn't rage, one ranger said. It was precision. 7:15 p.m. 2 phones found nearby. Crystal's phone was recovered 30 feet from her body, face down, screen cracked. Stephen's was never found. Forensics found no blood on the phone, no recent messages. The last opened app, the camera. The final image, Stephen with his arms around Crystal, their daughters in the background, smiling. Timestamp, 4:47 p.m., 13 minutes before the estimated time of death. No fingerprints, no shell casings, no clues. The area was clean. Clean. No shell casings were found, possibly indicating the use of a revolver or someone skilled enough to pick them up. The only potential evidence, a crushed plastic bottle near the trail exit, with a smudged fingerprint not belonging to any family member. But no match has been made to any criminal database. Yet, it's like the killer walked in, did what they came for, and vanished without a trace. Witness statements. The lone man. One key piece of information came from an older couple who had passed the Gosnells on the trail around 3:30 p.m. They reported seeing a tall, thin man walking about 50 feet behind the family, dressed in hiking gear but carrying no backpack, water, or gear. He kept his head low and avoided eye contact. The couple thought it was strange, but didn't feel threatened. No one has seen this man since, and his identity remains unknown. Could he have followed the family, waited until they were alone, and carried out a targeted attack? Investigators reconstruct the timeline. 9:15 a.m. family leaves home. 10:30 a.m. arrive at park. Signed in on CCTV. 12 o'clock to 1 o'clock p.m. active on trail. Photos taken to p.m. Phones go silent. 3:30 p.m. last seen by witnesses. Followed by lone man for 47 p.m. Final photo taken 5 p.m. Estimated time of death, 5:30 p.m. Daughters found alone. 6 p.m. Bodies discovered nearby, 7:15 p.m. Crystal's phone recovered. It's a straight timeline, said the lead detective, but nothing about it makes sense. The gaps in the story investigators still can't explain. Why the killer spared the children, how they moved so silently, why there were no signs of struggle, who the mysterious man on the trail was. Someone went into that park with a very specific purpose, the detective said, and when they left, 2 people were dead, and the answers left with them. Online theories exploded as media outlets picked up the story. So did the internet, Reddit threads, TikTok timelines, YouTube conspiracy videos. Some claimed it was a contract killing. Others believed it was a random psycho living in the woods. A few even suggested it was a cult sacrifice, citing the name Devil's Den as a clue. But most people agreed on one chilling thing. This wasn't random. Someone wanted the Gosnells dead and planned it carefully. The daughter's trauma, an unspoken timeline. Psychologists working with the 2 girls, whose names have been kept confidential, have said that they're still not speaking about the incident in full. One of them occasionally draws dark images, forests, guns, a tall man with no face. The other has frequent nightmares and flinches when anyone raises their voice. They may be the key to solving this mystery, but for now, their story and their pain remained locked inside their memories. When they're ready, a counselor said, they might tell us everything, but we're not rushing them. They've been through hell. Investigation and arrest, a crime without motive, but not without method. Within hours of discovering the Gosnell parents' bodies, a full-scale multi-agency investigation was underway. This wasn't just a backwoods accident. This was a high-priority double homicide, and the presence of 2 surviving children made it even more urgent. The Arkansas State Police, FBI, and U.S. Park Services all joined forces. But from the start, one thing became terrifyingly clear. Whoever did this was highly organized and completely invisible. There were no footprints, no DNA, and no eyewitnesses, aside from 2 children who couldn't speak of the trauma they'd endured. The killer had walked into the woods, taken 2 lives, and walked back out, as if nothing had happened. Psychological profiling begins. The FBI brought in behavioral analysts, hoping to profile the type of person who could carry out such a cold execution in front of children and leave them unharmed. The resulting profile was chilling. Male, likely 30 to 50 years old, intelligent and calm, under pressure possibly. Ex-military, or trained in tactical movement, familiar with the area, or had planned the route in advance. Emotionally detached, but capable of manipulation. This wasn't someone who snapped, said one profiler. This was someone who waited, someone who stalked. Re-examining the scene, a clue missed. A week after the crime scene techs returned to Devil's Den to re-examine every inch. This time, they brought ground-penetrating radar, forensic botanists, and thermal drones, hoping something had been missed. And it had. Behind a mossy boulder about 80 yards from the crime scene, partially buried in dirt, they found a trail cam. Not the park's, but a personal one. A hunting cam. It had been rigged to record motion, but the SD card had been ripped out. The only thing left, a faded manufacturer number. It was traced to a store in Oklahoma, to 220 miles away. Someone brought that camera in, recorded something, and took the evidence with them, said the lead ranger. They were watching the family before it happened. The lone vehicle theory. As investigators widened their net, they reviewed hours of highway footage, park entrance logs, and vehicle registration databases. And there it was, a silver Chevy Malibu, with an obscured license plate, entering the park 2 hours before the Gosnells and exiting less than 15 minutes after the murders were believed to have occurred. Park staff didn't remember seeing the car. There was no official checkout record. The car was later spotted in Springdale, Arkansas, on a gas station camera, but the plate had been covered with mud. Investigators believed the driver was the same tall man spotted by the older couple on the trail earlier that day. A break in the case. Fingerprint match. 3 weeks passed with no arrest. Public pressure mounted. Then came a breakthrough. That crushed plastic bottle found near the exit trail. The smudged print on it was sent through an expanded forensic database. And this time, it hit. The fingerprint matched a man named Cole Matthews, age 42, a former Army Ranger dishonorably discharged in 2012 for misconduct, including violent behavior and illegal weapons possession. He had no local ties. He lived alone in a remote part of Missouri, and chillingly, he'd been a suspect in a 2018 double homicide in Colorado. But lack of evidence let him walk free. This was a man trained to disappear, said one U.S. Marshal. He knew how to move, how to stalk, how to kill. The arrest, a cabin in the Woodson, July 15, 2024, exactly 1 month after the murders. Federal agents, Arkansas State Police, and local SWAT units surrounded a woodland cabin 10 miles from the Missouri-Arkansas border. Inside, they found ColeMatthews.com, shirtless, sharpening a hunting knife. There were maps of Devil's Den State Park on the table. A burn pile out back held remains of a phone, camera parts, and a partially melted gun handle. Inside a locked trunk, they found a Glock revolver, camping gear, a journal with coded entries, a zip drive labeled Echo Trail, believed to contain footage. But heavily encrypted. Matthews didn't resist. He said just one thing as he was cuffed. "You people only see the surface." Interrogation and silence. Once in custody, Matthews refused to speak. He lawyered up immediately and invoked his right to remain silent. But authorities were confident. "We may not have a full confession," one investigator said, "but we have enough to bury him." The recovered gun was a ballistics match for the bullets found in Stephen and Crystal's bodies. The Chevy Malibu was traced to a rental in Matthews' name under an alias. A former military colleague anonymously confirmed Matthews had once bragged about hunting humans in peaceful places. That was enough for the prosecutors. A deeper motive, or random violence. Even with Matthews in custody, the motive remained unclear. Why why them, and why that day? Was it a random thrill kill, or was there something more? Authorities discovered that Matthews had been camping in Devil's Den for over a week before the murder. He had journal entries referring to families, patterns, trails, and something cryptic labeled Judgment Day 2 before the fire. Some believed he may have been planning more killings, or was inspired by some twisted ideology. Others feared he was part of a larger group. Though no evidence of this has been confirmed, it's possible the Gosnells were just in the wrong place at the wrong time, said one investigator. And that's what makes it so horrifying. Community response. Fear turns to anger. News of Matthews' arrest hit the press. The town of Van Buren breathed a sigh of relief, but it was short-lived. Parents feared going to parks, trails emptied. The Gosnell girls were placed under 24/7 protection with extended family. "We don't feel safe," said one resident. "That man may be in jail, but how many more are out there?" Preparing for trial, the state charged Cole Matthews with 2 counts of first-degree murder, 2 counts of child endangerment, possession of an unregistered firearm, tampering with evidence. The trial was scheduled for January 2025. But with delays expected due to psychological evaluations and encrypted evidence reviews, prosecutors were pushing for the death penalty. But Matthews' defense, planning an insanity plea. His journal entries, obsession with war, and PTSD diagnosis may play a role, but victims' advocates insist this wasn't trauma, this was evil. Final analysis, a crime with no justification. As law enforcement prepares for trial, one question still echoes through the hearts of those who knew the Gosnells. Why? Why would a man stalk a happy family, destroy them, and leave 2 children with lifelong scars? Why did he spare the girls? Why record it? "It may never make sense," said the state attorney. "But justice is coming, and we won't stop until it does." Trial updates, public reactions, and conclusion. The courtroom was silent, the air heavy with anticipation. For months, the nation had followed every twist and turn of the Arkansas State Park hiking murder case. Now, as the trial commenced, emotions ran raw, not just inside the courtroom, but across every living room and phone screen where people had grown invested in this haunting tragedy. The accused, Darren Cole, stood at the center of it all. Dressed in a plain gray suit, his eyes were sunken, devoid of remorse. Prosecutors painted him as a man with a history of violence and psychological instability. They presented evidence linking him directly to the murders: surveillance footage, GPS trail data, and traces of DNA found under victim Grace's fingernails. Innocent hikers, a father, a mother butchered while protecting their daughters. The prosecutor began, voice trembling with moral fury. This was not a random act. This was premeditated, cold-blooded murder. Suspenseful shock shot through the courtroom when body cam footage was played. The girls, covered in blood, clinging to the officer, cried, "He hurt Mommy and Daddy." He came from the trees. Outside the courthouse, protesters and mourners held signs. Justice for Grace and Thomas. Some brought teddy bears for the orphaned daughters. The defense attorney claimed he was mentally unfit, plagued by PTSD and hallucinations. They argued that he had lost touch with reality, that the killings weren't premeditated but the result of psychotic delusions. But the jury wasn't convinced. The most heart-wrenching moment came when one of the daughters, just 9 years old, testified. With trembling hands and tearful eyes, she whispered, "He smiled when he hurt them." That line cracked even the most stoic juror. The verdict after 7 hours of deliberation. The jury returned guilty on all counts. As the judge announced, life imprisonment without parole, Darren Cole sat motionless. Outside, the crowd erupted into a mix of cheers and tears. Public reaction, the world responded. The story went viral across TikTok, YouTube, and X, formerly Twitter. Hashtags like #Arkansas hiking murders and #Justice for the family trended globally. INFLUENCERS, and journalists called it one of the most harrowing family murders in recent U.S. history. Mental health experts debated the red flags missed in Darren's past. Lawmakers began pushing for legislation requiring more rigorous background checks for park staff and campers. As one psychologist noted in a viral interview, "Evil doesn't always wear a mask. Sometimes it camps beside you." Grace and Thomas were remembered as heroes, parents who shielded their children until the end. The girls' future now living with relatives in another state. The two girls are under trauma care and therapy. Their community has rallied around them, raising over $1.2 million through GoFundMe to support their education and healing. They were seen at a recent memorial walk in the park holding hands, wearing shirts that read, "We carry their light." Conclusion: this tragedy reminds us of the thin line between serenity and savagery, that even amid the beauty of nature, darkness can emerge without warning. It also reveals the strength of the human spirit, of two young girls who witnessed unimaginable horror, but continue to move forward with courage. And so we ask, could this have been prevented? Should national parks have better security protocols? How do we protect the innocence of children from such random cruelty? Let us not forget the names Grace and Thomas, symbols of love, courage, and sacrifice. If this story moved you, please subscribe to The Crime Chapter 1, like this video, and comment your thoughts below. Where are you watching from? And what do you think justice looks like in cases like this?